A woman stood at the front of a lecture hall in Alexandria, drawing geometric figures in the air with her hands, while outside, the city was fracturing. Her students, senators, governors, men of power, sat and listened, not because they had to, because she was the clearest mind in the room. Her name was Hypatia. The Stoics had a word for this kind of life: proheresis, the one thing most no one can take from you. Your capacity to choose how you meet the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, never meant for anyone else's eyes. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He was an emperor. He still had to remind himself of this daily. The teaching isn't about grand gestures. It's about the quiet, daily decision to keep showing up. To your work, your truth, your calling, regardless of what the world permits or forbids. Alexandria in the late 4th and early 5th century was a city at war with itself. The old world of Greek philosophy was colliding with new political and religious orders. Libraries that had held centuries of accumulated thought were under threat. The ancient tradition of open inquiry, the idea that a human mind, through reason and discipline, could touch something true, was becoming dangerous. Into this world, Hypatia taught mathematics, astronomy, philosophy. She edited and preserved texts so that the knowledge inside them wouldn't be lost. Her students wrote to her from across the Mediterranean, not just for answers, but for the quality of her attention. One of them, Synesius, kept her letters for the rest of his life. She never married. She never retreated. When asked why she remained in a city growing more volatile by the year, she is said to have replied that she was where her work was, and in that stillness, that refusal to be moved from her purpose, everything about her becomes clear. She was not defying the world to make a point. She was simply more committed to truth than to safety. That is a different thing entirely. The first lesson is this: a calling doesn't wait for permission. Or we tell ourselves we'll begin when conditions improve, when the timing is right, when the world makes space for us. Hypatia's world never made space for her. She made space for herself, not through force, but through the quiet, relentless practice of doing the work anyway. The Bhagavad Gita speaks directly to this. Krishna tells Arjuna, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Do the work, release the outcome. Hypatia could not control how Alexandria would receive her. She could only control whether she showed up. The second lesson is about preservation. Hypatia didn't just teach, she protected. She edited texts so future minds could inherit them. The Buddhists call this dana, generosity, and its highest form is giving something that outlasts you. Every time we pass on genuine knowledge, we are doing what she did. We are building a bridge across time. The third lesson is the hardest. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something matters more than fear. Hypatia knew the risks. She stayed anyway. Not recklessly, but with clear eyes. Here is the practice. Choose one thing you have been postponing because the conditions aren't right. Not a grand life overhaul. One thing. A conversation you've been avoiding. a skill you've been meaning to develop, a truth you've been circling without saying. Now ask yourself honestly, am I waiting for permission that will never come? The Stoics called this amor fati, love of what is. Not passive acceptance, but active engagement with the life you actually have, not the ideal version you're waiting for. Hypatia didn't have a perfect world. She had Alexandria in 400 AD and a mind full of mathematics. That was enough. Begin with what you have. Begin where you are. Hypatia's story doesn't end neatly. The ancient world she represented did not survive. But her students carried her ideas forward. The texts she preserved outlasted the city that tried to silence her. Seeds, when they fall into darkness, don't stop being seeds. There is a kind of life that the world cannot fully extinguish, the life lived in service of something true. Not famous, not safe, just true. She taught mathematics while Rome burned, and the geometry she drew in the air that day is still with us. Subscribe to LifeVeda for daily wisdom that transforms your life.